make a move in the ring. You can hit me with a word you fling.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Nick Atkin on the Post-Fight Podcast, South China Morning Post, scmp.com/MMA. We've just watched UFC Vegas 8, UFC Fight Night, Smith versus Rakic. I'm joined, as usual, by my guy JHK MMA over in Korea and Chris Edwards-Bailey in Hong Kong with me. Guys, how is everything going?
Absolutely fantastic. Loving the fights this morning. A good way to wake up. Good way to start Sunday.
Yeah, as Chris was saying before we hit record, it was a good one to get up early for because you had four straight submissions. John, I think that was the case with you, and then we just had a bunch of decisions to finish the card, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a fight card that started off fast and then kind of dragged on for the rest of the night or the morning for us.
Yes, we are, of course, all in Asia, but let's break it down. Let's start with the main event. Aleksandar Rakic getting a very dominant, unanimous decision over former light heavyweight challenger Anthony Smith. Chris, Rakic just looked pretty much unstoppable in there from my point of view. Smith had no answers for him, really, did he? It was bell-to-bell control from the Austrian.
Rakic looked absolutely phenomenal. His leg kicks are fantastic. His range was amazing. His ability to control the distance, I thought, was fantastic. And even his craftsmanship around the ring and being able to control the ring was second to none. And I actually think that this fight, if you look at it, it really shows at this new generation coming through at light heavyweight. Not to knock Smith, but he kind of got his high ranking through other people quitting, retiring, etc. And now he is and now you've got the Reyes, the Jan, Rakic all catching up, all giving us new threats to the light heavyweight title.
Yeah, John, Anthony Smith, this is back-to-back losses for the first time since December 2013. This is a huge setback for him, isn't it? Because he's now lost to two of those guys. He's going to be out of the top five. Rakic is going to leapfrog him in. Is this the end of Anthony Smith as a challenger in the 205 division?
Not at all. I think that he just needs a long break. Just train for the love, not for a fight. Enjoy life with his family, and just, I think the rest of 2020, take it off. He has money. He's been fighting for a long time. He's been a contender for a long time. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a little break and recharging the batteries. And I think that's what Anthony Smith needs. He needs to recharge the batteries, come back early next year, and fight a guy still in the top 15. That's coming up to kind of gauge where he is. And I think the next fight will tell you more clearly, like, where he is in his career. I don't think this fight is going to tell us anything. It just tells us that he wasn't ready for Rakic, and Rakic is an elite light heavyweight, and he's very dominant. And Rakic showed us that he could also dominate on the ground and not get submitted by a high-level black belt, Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith's dangerous anytime he's on the ground. And what happened in this fight was that Rakic went in there and played that game and did damage on Smith without getting submitted. And he proved that. Now he could go back to his old ways of beating people, beating heads in the stand-up and knocking people out. I think that's what we're going to see in the next fight. I think we're going to see him go back to his old ways. And I'm just excited to see what's next for Rakic.
It's pretty unlikely, isn't it? Because you have Glover Teixeira against Thiago Santos as well in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
that's likely going to be the new number one contender. Who would you match him up against, as John was asking? I think someone said Yuri Prochazka, maybe.
Yeah, Denisa has absolutely no one lined up. I don't know what his schedule is. He hasn't really been calling out people much on his Twitter feed or his Instagram feed. But I think that would be the ultimate matchup, actually. You could have two guys from Eastern Europe. It's a shame they couldn't have that fight somewhere out in the East. I think it'd be absolutely huge for the region. I think that's it. I think if I was Rakic now, beating Anthony Smith, I wouldn't want to fight anyone ranked below you. And then the only people above him who aren't booked up is Yuri and, I believe, Ozdemir, who he's already got the win over. So it's tough to go from there.
I agree. I think that Rakic should fight Yuri in December on the card, co-main eventing the Till versus Hermanson. That's December 5th, I believe, and that's going to be on Fight Island. And if these guys are going to fight anywhere, I believe it's going to be on Fight Island. So let's put that together. That'll be a sick co-main event, a big test for Yuri. I still think that Yuri needs to be tested in a different way, and I think Rakic will be able to do that. And then that will determine, like, entering 2020 or 2021, who the next in line is after Santos or Glover or any of those guys. So I want to see that fight really bad. Europe has just so many good light heavyweights. It's just like they're just filled with light heavyweights. It's insane. I think it's because they don't have American football, so they just go to martial arts, and that's what we end up with, or they're just too big and aggressive for football, just regular football, like you guys want to call it.
Yeah, definitely. That's the sweet spot, it seems. Yeah.
I also think one reason that attracts quite a lot of Europeans to light heavyweight is there's actually, if you go through the rankings, apart from John Jones and Reyes, there's no one really on there with phenomenal wrestling.
Well, Rakic's wrestling looked good tonight, and he's been working on it for 2 months. I think he brought in an All-American wrestler to his camp. He was training in, was it American Top Team Zagreb? Was that right, John?
Yeah, American Top Team. I think that worked out really well for him, and I'm looking forward to seeing him get better and better. I think that we haven't even seen the peak Rakic yet, and man, if this is just him getting started, he's going to be very scary. I could see him being a future champ, and with the skill set that he has and his ability to just go anywhere in the fight, man, John Jones leaving the division was the best thing that could ever happen for us fans.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely more competitive now. A lot of interesting matchups ahead. Chris,
can I ask a question? Do you guys think Rakic, though, do you think it was a bit disappointing to see him never really go for the knockout or the submission?
Well, I thought, he may go for a leg kick TKO, because he clearly, Smith was in trouble with that left leg. We saw that in One Championship on Friday night. It was Y2K, I think, getting the leg kick KO on Alex Shield. Is that right, in Bangkok?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, other than that, I don't know. Yeah, what did you think, John?
Yeah. That's the only critique that you can make of Rakic's performance, because it was completely dominant. It's just that he didn't go for the kill, and he usually goes for the kill. But I feel like he didn't want to put himself out there and just overreach his boundaries against Smith, because of Smith being so dangerous on the ground, and he was just being precautious, and he needed this win. He was coming off a loss, a controversial decision, and he needed this win to show everybody that he's back, and that's what he did. I don't fault him for it. You know what I mean? He hurt Smith badly, and we all know that, and that's it.
All right, let's bring up this card again. Okay, co-main event, Neil Magny. Another decision, this one utterly dominant as well, I think, over Robbie Lawler. The strike stats for me, John, were what really stood out. I think Magny had 121 to something like 17 for the former champ, Ruthless Robbie Lawler. It was pretty impressive stuff, wasn't it, from the Haitian sensation, as he calls himself?
Yeah, it was exactly like I think we discussed before the fight, in the preview show, that Neil Magny was going to go out there, use his distance well, and if he got close, he was going to get really close and clinch and go against the cage, and that's what basically he did, and he took it to the ground when he wanted to. And Robbie Lawler looked pretty lost at moments in that fight. He just didn't know how to handle the length of Neil Magny, and Neil Magny he's just so skillful now. It seems like he's like understanding how to use his body properly against the top guys, and at 33 years old, he's hitting his prime as a fighter. And I feel like this win should allow him to fight somebody in that top 10, someone that's coming off a couple wins, and not just a guy that's on a losing streak like Robbie Lawler was. They should give Neil Magny more promotion. They should try to pump him up a little bit more. Maybe even give him a main event in his next fight to see what he can do against a a top competitor. It's
Well,
it's
he's
great for
he's now closing in on the all-time welterweight wins record, isn't he? That
exactly.
GSP holds, which is crazy. Like given where he's ranked, I think 14, 15. What do you think of maybe giving him Jeff Neal next, Chris? Would that be good?
Yeah, I think Jeff Neal would be a great matchup. I think it'd be a dead fun fight. I don't know if Vicente Luque is hooked up with anyone at the moment. I think RDA has a fight in the works. I would like to see him and RDA actually run it back. I thought that was a really good fight, really entertaining until RDA got the submission in. And just with RDA being at a different level in his career now, I think that will be a good fight as well because no offense to Jeff Neal or Luque, they're not really huge names that Magny can really build off. While I think RDA would, him versus RDA number 2 would maybe catapult him into a bit more stardom.
All right, I'm going to ask both of you for your opinion on this. We'll start with John. A bit of talk now on Twitter after this one. Is this time for Robbie Lawler to hang the gloves up? I think he's 38. He's 0-4 in his last 4. Chris, you're nodding your head.
Yeah.
John, what do you think?
I never tell a fighter to hang the gloves up. I think the fighter has to decide that on their own and discuss it with their family. And we're going to talk about this in the next fight, I believe, or the fight after that with Ricardo Llamas. He explained it perfectly. It's like he's got to go back. When you retire, I feel like it's a decision that you and your family and your team has to make. And people and fans and critics and stuff, they want fighters to retire, but man, it's just so hard for them to do that. It's and I don't want to be the one making decisions for somebody. I rather just be picking fights that they should take instead of making them try to not do or not pursue what they love. It's like someone telling you if you love cheesecakes that you can never eat cheesecakes again. I'll smack them across the face, right?
Yeah, well, my only criticism is that Robbie's lost 5 of his last 6. They've all been top tier guys, which that's no fault to his. And look, I look at it 3 ways now. If you're Robbie Lawler, you either retire, which is option 1. You can either continue fighting, but let's be honest, you're probably not going to fight for a belt again, or you go for like a money fight. And Robbie Lawler's still a fairly big name. There is a possibility he could have probably an entertaining fight that would do decent numbers with someone like Pettis. He could maybe even try and coax Nate Diaz out of retirement if Nate Diaz thought he's going to get paid for an easy fight. But I love Robbie Lawler. I love some of the fights he's been through. His battles with Rory McDonald, Tyrone Woodley, just to name a few, absolutely fantastic. And I just want everyone who watches the sport now to be able to stop and actually think of how much a killer Robbie Lawler was then. I just think at age 38 now, especially for his weight class, that's very, very old. I mean, how old's GSP now? 40? And he's fought once in the last 7 years. So just put some sort of age onto it. And I just want Robbie to do what's best for him. He's took a lot of damage in his last outings. And he's not going to win a belt again. We all know that. So as long as he's financially secure, I think he should do what he wants. But just don't tarnish that legacy.
Okay.
Bare knuckle boxing.
Yeah.
See him over there.
Why not? If we move down the card, then this one was a little disappointing for us, wasn't it, John? I'll let you lead off on it. Jion Kim, unanimous decision loss to Alexa Grasso. We were expecting more from Kim, but you seem to have theory why she didn't perform so well. Yeah, talk us through.
Yeah, she, a couple fights ago, she left her team and she went and trained over at Alliance MMA in San Diego with Eric Del Fierro, and it seemed like it was a perfect match made in heaven. Her next fight she did really well, and then this time around, because of the coronavirus, she couldn't go over to Alliance and train and do her camp there. So what she did was she stayed in Korea, basically made or organized her own camp without a head coach, and she was just training at random places, and that did not work. That's not going to work out for most fighters, and it just didn't work out for her. She just looked like she was lost. She didn't really have a game plan. She kept on throwing the same thing over and over again, even though it wasn't working. And Alexa Grasso, she took full advantage of that and came out hands up high with the guard up, throwing combinations, mixing up kicks, if you look at the numbers of like the strikes thrown and strikes landed, Grasso just put in work, man. It was very impressive. Her coming up from strawweight to make her debut at flyweight, and she beats a ranked girl next week. What do you know? Alexa Grasso's ranked in the top 15 at flyweight.
Yeah, Chris, where would you go with Alexa next? What's the next move for Kim?
Alexa needs someone ranked, and to tell you the truth, I don't really know what the next move is for Kim. I think with John, what John has just revealed to us, I think really she needs to spend a bit of time, work on her preparation, work on her camp, work on her training. I mean, look, go back to the preview. I love her. I think she's a great fighter. But now you look at her 3 losses in the UFC, they've all been unanimous decisions. I believe she's got 2 split decisions on the record. So when she's winning, she's just about winning and scraping by. When she's losing, she's losing every round. And that's something that she really needs to think about. And maybe she needs to move somewhere else, up end sticks, and go elsewhere in order to be able to do what she can do in her career and what I actually think she is capable of. I mean, particularly in the first round, there were some exchanges that I thought she was doing really well. And then she just seemed to go absolutely flat as the fight went on. And it has happened in a few of her fights in the past. I think she just, she just needs a big change in camp, because I can't really ever see her getting anywhere near the top echelon, really.
Yeah, she looked pretty bust up at the end, didn't she, guys? I'm just trying to bring up this tweet from the UFC. You'll see her face. I think it was right, a broken orbital, broken nose. Alexa was just piecing her up, wasn't she, John? What did you glean from? I think you listened in on some of the corner exchanges. What was Alexa? Sorry, what was Kim saying to her coach? What was her coach saying to her?
Well, I think between the second and third round, Kim whispered to her coach that she had double vision, and usually when you have double vision, either you get your eye poked or something's wrong with your orbital, and if we look at the picture right there, so she took a lot of punches to that to that eye, and it's swollen bad, and usually she doesn't really swell that much, what I mean, like during her fights, even though she gets punched, but she looked like something's wrong with the orbital, and like her nose might be broken too. It was very disappointing to watch that fight. The way that she fought, and she just needs to get out of her. Ooh, that's not a good picture right there of Kim, right? But a great picture for Alexa, but not a good picture for Kim. I think that she just needs to get out of her comfort zone. She needs to have someone take over her fight camps and just be in control, man, because if she doesn't make adjustments from this moment on, she's just gonna fade away. I mean, she's just gonna fade away, and this is the peak of her career, number 14 in the rankings, and she beat Nadia Kassem by TKO. And the only way for her to like advance, she needs to go away from her comfort zone, get out of Korea, focus with a coach she has a very good connection with Coach Eric in San Diego with Alliance. If she can't go there, go somewhere else. Go to Tiger Muay Thai and go work with the Hickman brothers. There's a lot of girls, a lot of talented girls in Phuket at Tiger Muay Thai. You got Llamas there. You got a bunch of wrestlers. There's a lot of up and coming girls, and there's always fighters coming in and out, and that she could train with and get different looks. I think she just needs like 6 months of just training and just focus on training and developing and getting like adding new aspects to her game instead of just being a boxer. She doesn't even really throw leg kicks. In this day and age, you got to be able to throw leg kicks, at least throw calf kicks. I mean, those have been so effective in a lot of fights. Sean O'Malley, for example, Chito Vera. So yeah, Kim needs major changes. If she doesn't make those changes, mark my words, man, we will not see her in the UFC after the next fight if she loses.
All right. Well, what about this? You alluded to it earlier. John Ricardo Llamas, unanimous decision against Bill Algie, swept the board with a 10-8 rounds on all 3 judges' scorecards. Impressive stuff from Llamas, and yeah, he said it could be his last fight. But aside from that, how did you rate the performance? He still looked pretty good as a veteran. It was a tough test to pass for him, wasn't it, John?
Yeah, man, it was that guy Allegio. He looked so big against Llamas. Llamas looked like he was like a flyweight, and Bill looked like he was a featherweight, just so long and tall and much bigger. But Llamas, he's a veteran, and he showed that in this fight where he could come through and make the adjustments. And in that third round, he made the major adjustments. Man, he got nailed with that knee coming in, and he looked like he was Bill, that was his moment. That was his moment to knock out Llamas, and he just couldn't do it. And Llamas toughed it out and then came back in the third and got the 10-8 round and showed that you ain't going to beat the dog out of me, man. I'm the dog in this spot. And but Bill, he also showed that he could hang with the big boys too in his debut. So, you guys got to understand, Bill actually just fought a 3-round fight 2 weeks ago. So he's having a 2-week back turnaround off a 15-minute fight that he won a decision. So I'm interested to see with the camp what he can do in the UFC. He looks like he's a decent fighter. So what did you think about Bill's performance, or even Llamas? Do you think Llamas is going to retire, Chris?
I don't think Llamas is going to retire. To tell you the truth, that third round would actually probably go down into one of my rounds of the year for just the way he turned it around. After, I think we all agree, Llamas lost that second round quite clearly. But to come back and win it and show the courage and the bravery that was required was absolutely great. And just even... I didn't actually score as a 10-8 round, so I'm quite shocked at the judges. But to come back in the last round and get a 10-8 to get the win, to get the fight of the night, get the fight of the night bonus, good for Llamas. I think he should keep fighting. He's obviously got a lot more to give. And Bill also looks like he's got a lot to give. He run around against a good vet. Maybe the last round was a 10-8 because he was tired from fighting 2 weeks. He's just won himself a share of $50,000. And I'm sure he can probably use that to pay some bills and invest in a training camp and hopefully be fighting in the early part of next year.
All right.
Also, sorry, can I add one more thing, guys? This was actually, I think, the only fight on the card where both guys won a round. So it must be quite easy to win a fight of the night.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What about we had first fight on the main card, Impa Kasanganay making his UFC debut after winning that UFC contract on Dana White's Contender Series. I think it was only 2 weeks ago. Is that right, John? Or less than 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
11 days. Yeah, Magny Patolo. This was a fun fight, wasn't it? These guys were hitting hard. But yeah, 30-27, I think, all three scorecards. Very impressive, and he's a bit of a prospect in that division, wouldn't you say, John?
Those boys was cracking. That's what I could say. They were cracking, and you could hear those punches landing, and Impa was just eating them. Like he ate some big shots, and so did Magny Patolo. He ate some big shots too. I thought it was a much closer fight, to be honest with you, than a 30-27. That was kind of weird. But but Impa won that fight. Impa, man, I've interviewed him twice now. Such a nice guy, man. He's so positive and he's so focused on his career. And he's 8-0. He's undefeated still. First fight in the UFC out the way. That, man, I just see the ceiling. There is no ceiling for Impa. I think that he's physically gifted, and we're gonna see him develop throughout the years with the UFC. He's gonna lose. It's not like he's gonna continue being undefeated. He's gonna lose. He's gonna run into somebody that's much more skilled, but that's gonna improve him, and we're gonna see him. I think for the next few years develop into a top 15 fighter. And and he cracks, man. And Magny, man, I don't know why he turned around so quick. He just fought, I believe, 2 weeks ago. And I don't understand why he took this fight against Impa. It's just almost like he was forced to do this. And I don't know. I don't think he's going to get cut or anything for it, because it doesn't seem like the UFC is really cutting any fighters. But still, it could be detrimental to the trajectory of your career, where you want to go when you're taking these fights so quickly after you lost. You know what I mean? And I think that's back-to-back losses for Maki. And I don't know. I think that, to be honest with you, I feel like he should go back to 170. He doesn't really seem like a too big of a 185er. I think that's the best decision for him.
Yeah, he's too small for the weight class. And even Maki Pitolo, he fought on the Lewis Olenek card, but he also fought on the Nunes Felicia Spencer card as well back in June, which does show that, look, I hate be always banging on about it, but there's only so much you can fight, and it really is starting to actually go a bit downhill. We had Anthony Smith a bit earlier on in the card, and I think people just need to give themselves a bit more time off, particularly someone like Pitolo, who is just outside that top 15, who is very competitive. And, he's kind of a gatekeeper into that top 15. And just seems to be putting his body through too much stress. So I'd like to see him take the rest of the year off, really, and regroup.
All right. Wow. Why don't we run through these prelims? There's a lot of fun finishes on there. I guess, why don't we start with that opener? That was crazy, wasn't it? We thought we'd seen the comeback of the year candidate last week with Trevin Jones. Talk us through it, John. You were blowing my WhatsApp up early doors this morning, saying, wow, Mallory Martin coming back from, she got completely beaten pillar to post, really, in that first round by Hannah Cyphers, and then came back with the rear naked choke in the second.
That's an understatement. She got cracked and dropped, and then Hannah Cyphers went in and just threw a barrage together for like a few minutes, to be honest with you. And Martin kept on just trucking and trying to dodge punches and kind of gained, her footing back again and kind of got her wits together by clinching really well and showing that she's trying to be in the fight, you know what I mean? And there was a couple times, I think some other referees, they would have went in there and stopped that fight. But this referee's the same referee from the Trevin Jones fight. You know what I mean? Like, this guy, I like this guy. He gets it. You know what I mean? He's letting these fighters fight and earn their paychecks. And I like that. You know what I mean? I don't like early stoppages, but yeah, what I expected in this fight, I picked Mallory Martin to win this fight. What I expected her to do was do what she did in the second round, but in the first round. But she said in the post-fight interview that, she didn't feel like, she didn't have that energy. You know what I mean? I think like she got woken up by getting punched in the face. And in the second round, she went out there. And it was interesting too, is like between the first and second round, Mallory's coaches were saying, get her against the cage, take her down, do what you do. And then Cypher's corner is like, hey, she's going to get you to the cage and try to take you down, defend that takedown, and do what you do. And they knew what they were going to do. And what happened? Mallory went in there and beat the brakes off Cypher in the second round and choked her out. Man, it was impressive. I like Mallory a lot. She's connected to Asia. She trained at Tiger Muay Thai for many years. Shout out to the Hickman brothers. They trained her for a long time. Now she's out at Elevation with Sean Madden. Shout out to him. He's another guy that's been out in Thailand, fighting Muay Thai, and now he's a coach out there, striking coach. But yeah, Mallory, she's still so young. She's 26 or 24, something like that. So I think that she's a prospect coming up. She just needed to, I think she needed this fight just to wake her up and say, hey, you're competing against the best in the world. And now you need to fight like that all the time.
Well, I'm going to question you there. You can't really say you're fighting the best in the world. I mean, I think she had a really good victory against Hannah Cyphers. And I'm actually a big fan of Hannah Cyphers. I think she actually has some very good parts to her game. But it's her fourth fight of 2020, and she's lost all four. I mean, she has fought some top-level competitors like Mackenzie Dern this year. But do we see her stay in the UFC? Do you deserve to stay in the UFC if you lose 4 in a row? Or is the women's divisions that much weaker that you won't get caught?
I feel like this year is a complete write-off for anything. Yeah. No one's going to judge anyone for taking fights and losing fights at the moment. Why not just go and make the money, right?
Yeah, what I also loved about this is it reminded me, this card, of Miocic, Cormier, that we had both the people who missed weight lost, which... there seems to be something changing, because generally if you miss weight, you had a much higher expectancy to win. But both the people who missed weight on this fight lost, and we had two people on there, Burns and TJ Brown, I think. Both their fights, they missed weight and lost. So maybe the tide is changing.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, guys, pick us through something. What else impressed you on the prelims? A lot of fun finishes. Bruce Leeroy, another back-to-back win for him. He did it without the hair. What's going on? He beat Austin Springer by a rear naked choke. I thought the hair was the magic for Bruce, Alex Caceres, no?
No, I think he saw Chris's hair, and he was just like, "Nah, I gotta get rid of mine." It's just dominating the scene right now. You know what I mean? This MMA space, Chris is killing it with his hair. So it's like Alex decided to cut his hair off, but it didn't matter for him. He went in there and just did what he does, and he's had a pretty successful year so far, and he wants to come back one more fight. I would like to see him fight, to be honest with you, Ryan Hall. I think Ryan Hall would be a good fight against, Alex Bruce Leeroy. But there's a lot of options for Bruce Leeroy. I think that he'll fight anybody pretty much. So the UFC, they love him, so they're going to keep him around. And why not make a career out of if you're getting paid well, why not make a career out of beating prospects? Yeah. If you're not really caring about the title, just go out and beat prospects all day, and you're just a prospect killer. And why not do that? You're going to get paid for it. And it's not going to be any different if you fight somebody up in the rankings. So I think he's doing it right. And man, I like this guy. He's lasted so much longer than a lot of people believed he would. You know what I mean? Like, he comes from the Street Fighter background. Remember, if you go on YouTube, you can watch his fights in the backyard. Go type in his name and you'll see those. Just like Masvidal and Kimbo Slice, he comes from that lineage. So yeah, man, he's pretty much transitioned and transformed into this legit mixed martial artist and beating all the prospects. And I love watching him fight, man. He's all about the action. He's not about the talk. And you can't hate a guy like that.
It's like the opposite of Randy Orton, the legend killer. He's the prospect killer. He took out Chase Hooper, didn't he, earlier this year? So, who else stuck out to you, Chris, on the prelims? If you were able to get up in time and watch anything,
if there's one that really pops out, actually, well, okay, I'm actually not going to go for the obvious one. I'm going to go for the better finish, actually. And Polyana Viana's armbar was absolutely fantastic. To put it from the bottom was fantastic. And great technique to her. And you know what? There was just something about when she won that fight. And the same with Mallory and Martin as well, actually, was a really good way to start the card off with two women's fights. And I don't know what it is, but there's something about when those women on those prelim cards, when they win, you get this really raw, beautiful emotion. And just watching her win and the happiness in her eyes was absolutely fantastic. I mean, just the power on this, and you can see what she's doing to the arm, and the quickness that she tapped out just shows the how fantastic and how much she had it locked in, and how much tearing and grinding she was doing on tendons and whatnot.
Yeah, you don't mess with this girl. I think we discussed on the preview, right, John? She was the one in Brazil who the guy tried to mug, and the mugger ended up being completely destroyed. His face was bloodied and bruised. And it was a great story. If you haven't read it, go and check it out. But yeah, there were plenty of some other finishes on this card. John, why don't you talk us through Sean Brady with a guillotine choke?
Yeah, Sean Brady, another undefeated prospect. He gets his first finish in the UFC with a one-handed guillotine, I believe, from Mount. A beautiful finish. I believe in his interview with SCMP earlier this week, Eddie Alvarez, he trained with Sean Brady, preparing him for his upcoming fight in Philadelphia. And he was saying that this guy is the next champ. And if you look at the video, it shows you that he has all the skills. He definitely has the tattoos and to beat up everybody visually. So, man, that was a great performance. Aguilera, I feel like, man, this guy, he came in on short notice. I think he came in on like 3 days notice and lost by knockout, and then he comes back here and faces another really good prospect and gets choked out in the second round. I feel like, man, he's just had a bad luck of matchups, and But Brady, man, he's legit. I'm just interested to see who can he face next. Because lightweight. This is lightweight fight, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's lightweight, right? So like, I'm just thinking like, who can he face in the lightweight division? That's gonna be a test, but not too much of a high level fighter. He still needs to build himself up. He's only, I believe, like 8-0 or 9-0. So it's hard to tell. Chris, you got any names in mind?
Yeah, see, it's really, really hard because he's had so little experience in the UFC. I know he is undefeated. It's the same with Impa as well, actually. Just with anyone, you shouldn't really rush them too fast or push them too fast. And I think really you want to find someone who's maybe had about 4 or 5 fights in the UFC, won half, lost half, and that's probably the correct opponent. There's no one who really jumps to mind.
All right, well, we better mention it. It's the only other fight we haven't talked about. Just 'cause it was pretty cool, wasn't it? Zach Cummings with the buzzer-beating kick on the Chirico. He got the win anyway, but do you think this could have been a KO, John?
No, I don't think so. He was rocked.
Just to get
Yeah, he was rocked. He was
Don't
drunk.
wanna
He
laugh.
looked like me on a Saturday night when I was in my 20s. And after a hard night, walking down the street. But yeah, that was a beautiful, beautiful head kick. Look at that. That's amazing, man. Zach Cummings, he just won't go away, right? Like he's been in the UFC for a long time, fighting at welterweight for a while, didn't have too much success, so he goes up to 185, and he's finding great success now. He's won a couple in a row, and he's a veteran that's gonna stick around for a long time, it seems like. And at 185, he's showing decent potential. He's like that, and he's like in that role of prospect killer. Hey, that's our new thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna label these guys prospect killers, and I think Zach Cummings, I don't see him like going into the top 15, but I could see him fighting a lot of the prospects or guys that have been around for a while in that 185 division and doing really well.
Guys, would you rather, with Impa winning, would you rather see Impa fight Alessio next, or do you think he's good enough to go straight against Zach Cummings?
Alessio, you want to build, like you said earlier, you want to build these guys. I think Alessio, he's had a few fights in the UFC, wins and losses. Yeah, you put Impa against him. I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, like I would say for someone like Impa, like, look, if you just join the UFC, it can all be willy-nilly and you can go on these fantastic runs. But if I was Impa, I'd be looking 3 or 4 fights. That's when you want to be fighting a Zach Cummings.
Yeah.
That's when you want to be making that statement. It's probably about a year from now you want to fight someone like that and get some more fights in your belt. And yeah, I just remember watching Impa when he won, and it was like, oh, you just had 2 middleweights who've been around for a long time. Because I like it when you get 2 people in the same weight classes on the same cards, because then you can kind of call out each other. You kind of get a relative ranking. So I think really Impa should have called out one of those 2 guys. So hopefully he gets a fight against Alessio, but Alessio might not be fighting for a while because doesn't look like he can walk too well right now.
No. I think that about wraps things up. Chris, Edwards, Bailey, John Hill Co.
Thank you,
Always
guys.
good to get your analysis. Yeah, and I'll see you guys again next Sunday. Hopefully, we'll break down this card. Alistair Overeem v. Augusto Sakai, UFC Vegas 9. I think we're up to now. Okay, yeah. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you all again next time. Cheers.
Hey guys, Sasha Platnikoff here, letting you know to tune in to SCMP Post Fight for all your weekly martial arts news.